The Killer Growth Podcast starts now.
What's up, guys? Sam McVeigh here with the Killer Growth Podcast, and today I have David May, owner and CEO of Trinity Precision, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
It's Akeratos, yeah. Akeratos.
Akeratos. I'm excited to understand that.
Yes.
What goes behind that. It looks cool, and I do like the logo. But yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We go back. I was trying to think of what year we met. And how we met and why we met, and I couldn't think of it.
No, I got to be honest. I would have a hard time as well. Sometimes my memory is pretty faulty. So,
sure, yeah.
But it has been a while, and always a pleasure.
Yeah,
so.
No, I knew your parents before you, which was a pleasure working for them. We did a lot of rental cleanouts for them through Good to Be Clean.
Oh yeah, very
and
good.
then somehow I got connected to you, and I could not, think about it. But every time we got together for lunch, I always left and always thought I need to talk to David more.
Yeah,
it's always a good conversation. So, all right, well, let's jump into it. And this is how I like to start it. Have you seen any episodes yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay,
yeah. So
you kind of get the vibe. It's really unprofessional, and we just hang out and talk.
It feels very comfortable
about you. Good. So your background. You go back 25 years in the aero industry. So. Let's just start there. Aircrafts. Where did David get into it? And then what led him to Trinity and Akeratos?
So I wish there was some grand plan. I'm sure God's got that obviously in mind. I did not. When I came out of college, I was married, had a little one on the way, and so had a connection out at Cessna through an uncle who got me an interview. So I got my foot in the door. I started off probably as low as you can get in the supply chain world, which was pushing parts. So,
what does that mean?
So we would take any parts that production needed, and we'd go out to the suppliers. We'd go coordinate and say, hey, how are you doing on delivery? Where are you at in the manufacturing process? You're late. So it was a lot of conversations along those lines. And that was actually a great experience because I had interaction with production. I also had a lot of interaction with a lot of business owners, small businesses, some big businesses. You learned how to have a good BS detector as well pretty quickly because when people are late, they're not always as forthcoming as to what's going on. So you quickly learned when and who to trust, which has served me really, really well. But after that, I was in a program which they trained the expediters to go into the buying positions. Then I joined a commodity team later on, which was new at the time. A gentleman by the name of Mike Kozorki came in and really put together cross-functional teams in supply chain. So we went all over North America, saw over 200 different suppliers, all the way up Honeywell's, Rockwell Collins, Hexcel, for composites, to literally went to a facility that was in a person's garage. I stepped over a transmission, shoot away a couple of chickens. We had a great discussion at his dining room table. So
what parts
wonderful people. Park City is where they were at.
Park City, and what were they making?
Just small widgets, kind of thing. It wasn't, I would say that it wasn't as dialed in as supply chain is today, right?
Okay.
So, again, this has been quite some time, but it was the bottom line experience was to be able to see a lot of different businesses, and I heard a lot of amazing stories about people that started in their garage and built the business to, this 50, 100,000 square foot building, and they're doing all sorts of amazing things. And and sorry to get stuck on that specific garage story because that's fascinating to me. Did they invent a part or just get good at making a part and then found a client? As is with a lot of, I think, startups for the machine world, is usually there's somebody that has like machinist experience. They go and they buy a machine. they'll find either like a small building or they'll start up in the building, by their house. And then they'll just start making parts. And because they have very little overhead, they've got some experience. That's how they get their start, right?
Yeah.
And then they work their way up in the food chain of complexity and, just if they do a really great job. I've seen that so many times.
Yeah.
Where somebody is working at a bigger company, they get the bug, they want to go out and do it on their own, and so that's how they get started. So
that's cool.
Yeah, but there are definitely people that have their own patent applications or they have their own particular niche, and then that blows up into something really, really big. And those are pretty cool stories too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
there's so much behind the aircraft industry that's going to be fun to talk about today. From the supply chain, there's a lot of different players.
Oh, there are
making a lot of different pieces, and like how much does Boeing actually make, and what they make is what you guys make and other providers is really interesting to me. But we'll continue with your story, and we'll get into that.
Yes, out of Textron, I got the bug. I knew that I didn't want to be in a large corporation, so I'm not a big corporate guy, as I like to say. Really enjoy the breadth of business as opposed to the silos that are found in larger organizations. So it would have taken me a long time to be able to get into other aspects besides supply chain inside of that company. And any large company, to be honest. So they were a great company to work for, really enjoyed it, but then left and went to a smaller business where, had the opportunity at some point to start running the business for the private owner. Went through a divestiture, learned a lot from him, and, went to private equity. So was a lot like private ownership in terms of, focus. It did have a focus on the flip, is like to say, the liquidity horizon. They're always wanting to sell. Yeah. And there was some more rigidity around what I called corporate push-ups. So like the monthly financial reporting, some of the sales cycles that we needed to do. So we went to like Farnborough, the Paris Air Show kind of thing to, be part of the overall corporate for the PE group. So it was a bolt-on. Then they flipped to a publicly traded organization, was a very large group that was not a good fit for me. And for a variety of reasons, decided to exit and gave them as much time as they wanted because I really only had, the thought process, I want to go buy something. And had a group of guys that wanted to go do that with, right? In terms of being able to work together. I spent a year putting together an M&A deal. Took twice as long as I thought I was going to. Sure. And so there was kind of a sabbatical, as I put it. I got a lot of great time with family. Yeah. And then once we closed on the deal, we've been building Trinity ever since. We spent all the way up into COVID, and that's where Akeratos really came into play. During COVID, we tried very hard to make sure we maintained our workforce. So we literally used the Triple P efforts to cut down trees, wipe down walls. We also did a lot around like automation. And Akeratos was an outcropping of that automation effort. So in aerospace, a lot of people think about automation in terms of, hey, I'm going to build this one thing and I'm going to build 10, 20, 100,000 of these every year, right? Aerospace very rarely gets to that volume. Usually, you have somewhere between 30 to 40 ship sets or aircraft. So typically you have one part per aircraft and you're only making 30 or 40 of these a year. So what we did was we focused on how do we automate a process, and then inside of that envelope, we can produce any parts that fit that process. And now it's no longer 30 or 40 of this one thing that we've automated, but now we're automating thousands of parts and pieces that are going across it. If we can take the high mix, low volume is what we call it. So this idea that we do a whole bunch of different parts, but because they're the same process, we don't have to have a lot of changeover, switchover, same program, same tooling, everything else. And that's where Akeratos came into play. So we had some really talented people said, hey, let's go build a business, because how cool would it be to have, all of this team at Trinity's disposal when we need it, but really be able to go sell that and create additional revenue on other industries, other types of
other types
processes.
of parts that you would build, or consulting and helping other businesses do what you did?
So it's kind of a mix of both,
Okay.
right? For Trinity, it's about how do we do it with other stuff.
Yeah.
For Akeratos, it's how do we automate other manufacturing processes. So it's not just what they would call machine tending, which is what Trinity is using, but it's also how do we take and
You said machine tending.
Yeah, so literally, if you think about it, it's the robot loading and unloading a part. So we can load up, it's 12
Gotcha.
different in-feed systems that are lanes where we either can load up 12 lanes of one part or 12 different parts, and the robot will shift between each part and produce. So we can literally go close to 24 hours of unattended time. Now, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into that,
Sure.
and it sounds really easy, and there's a lot of
Doesn't
really
sound
small
easy to
people. I'm not the technical guy, so it's really easy for me to say, "Oh, it's automation," right?
Yeah.
But there's so machine tending is all about taking the raw material, loading it in the machine, and then bringing out a finished part, and doing that over and over while people are doing like problem solving. They're not loading the machine; they're solving problems, which is the whole intent of automation for us. Is not about replacing labor, but it's about elevating and leveraging labor, right? So just like if you think about automation in terms of data. A lot of where that's coming into play is being able to automate all the data entry, being able to automate all of the problem solving or the problem identification. So people then can go do a lot of the problem solving. And that's where we put a lot of our data analytic efforts into play as well at Trinity. Anyway, so Akeratos will take and also automate, so we've done welding processes. We've done hydraulic forming processes. We've done, we've got quotes out there right now for some welding, like on smaller components, some palletizing, some in the food industry. So it's really tapping into a broader market than what aerospace is, and that's been really exciting seeing those businesses.
Got it.
And trying to build another business as well.
Got one question in the comments.
All right, let's hear it.
Antique Books is with us again. They want to know, do you mostly work with private companies or also government projects?
Do you mostly work with private companies or just government?
Yeah, so for Akeratos is primarily been private companies. Yeah, we haven't done any type of government work. With Trinity, we do have some defense work, but most of those are all through either publicly traded or a private organization. So no direct DoD type work. Yep.
Yeah. So Akeratos, when you're going out, Akeratos is a new brand, essentially. Trinity's the backbone that still makes the product. Akeratos is identifying other products to make, other industries to help. Do they feed each other at all?
So support each other, yes. Feed each other, no, from the standpoint that Akeratos is really a separate entity.
Okay.
And so Trinity is still traditional machine and assembly type manufacturing for the aerospace, space, and satellite. We're getting into drone market as well. But Akeratos is all about automation consulting.
Got it.
So it does not. They don't rely on each other in the traditional in that sense.
Yeah. How many of you guys make up Akeratos?
So there's right now there are 3 full-time, and then we've got 3 other support that feed in as well.
Interesting. And what year did that start?
So that was right after COVID, so 21.
21.
Yeah,
Okay.
we really started getting serious about it about 18 months ago, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
In fact, we're just getting ready to revamp our website. As you kind of grow the business, you kind of outgrow what you're doing, and so we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So in the automation process, anybody that's doing any type of manufacturing is an ideal client for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like across the board.
Yes.
Yeah. I bet that's fun too. I mean, how long have you been in the aerospace industry?
Long time.
Like 97, I think is what I found.
Yeah.
So you're about to hit 30 years.
Yeah.
In the space. So that's probably fun to take that. I mean, it's the same. It's not the same. It's very different, but the process of automating and manufacturing, right? If you need a part to look this way versus that, and probably a lot of different material. How hard has that learning curve been?
I think the business side has been significantly different, right? So the sales cycle seems to be a little bit longer. What I have found interesting is the processes. You'd kind of think, well, business is business, but just like when you're given the tour, it was really interesting to learn on the key things you're focused on with some of your business, right?
Yeah.
With the automation group, we're learning how to filter early all the opportunities that we are getting in through like our pipeline, right?
Yeah.
So because while anybody that does manufacturing is a candidate for us to do business with, they're not necessarily an ideal candidate because automation really takes a specific mindset. And if you think that you're going to go into automation, push a button, no problems ever, and walk away, you're probably not a best candidate to be able to work with on automation. You really need to be able to hone down your process because automation is an amplifier of process. So if you have bad processes, bad inputs, you're going to get bad results, right? No different than data.
Yeah.
And so it's really important that people are either willing to address their upstream automation issues or process issues that feed into the automation, or they've already got a pretty salty process in place.
Yeah.
So filtering through that's really important.
So you break down, someone comes in, someone's got to own that. And then you have to understand their systems prior to working with you, right? Like as far as what you're going to automate, how much hardware comes into that? Are you like relying? Because I would think in the different industries, the hardware also looks different as far as the tools that are automated.
It does. So a lot of their manufacturing process, we might not have anything to do with some of that hardware, right?
Okay.
What we would come into play is sensors, any kind of robotic systems. Maybe we come in with like a robotic arm, any camera or vision type systems, things that are required to be able to do the automation piece of that manufacturing process. And we work with a variety of different like robotic providers. We try to find the right support or mix for what's appropriate for what the customer wants. There is a lot that goes into it. And I wish I could give a little bit better explanation, but we got some really smart people that we work with, and I let them handle all that.
Yeah, right. What's your role in Akeratos?
Really, it's just trying to help create the vision and the direction, and then give some guide rails to the team. So, for example, and just got back off of some vacation time, but before we left, we had a 2-day process map event in which we went from cash or lead to cash, right?
Okay.
And at a high level, we identified a variety of different things we need to go work on, how we can standardize some of those templates, but really trying to bring that strategic piece to the business and then start building the infrastructure that allows the business to grow, outside of any particular individual or definitely me. So as I like to joke, both at Trinity and at Akeratos, I'm the chief stay out of the way officer, right? So
I like that.
I want to make sure that I'm helping facilitate what I can, and giving the team what they need, but really staying out of the way, but trying to also provide some guide rails, right?
Yeah.
My position there at both has definitely changed, specifically at Trinity, but really focusing more on, you always hear that, work more on the business as opposed to in the business.
Yep.
And so I've been able to start making a lot of that transition, and that's been a real blessing.
You're big on culture. I've been in your building. Your culture's all over the walls.
Yeah.
Talk about the 3 Ps and how you came to the 3 Ps.
Yeah, people, process, and principle. So the way we like to think of it is principle is the foundational piece, right? So try to be faith-based and have that rock and that foundation, that clarity of purpose is the way we think of it. So when we think about our vision statement, it's the very first slide that we have with all of our customers. I think it throws everybody kind of for a loop. And in fact, I've had a couple questions on it early on, but now they kind of know us.
Yeah.
But our first slide it says our vision is to change the world one relationship at a time, guided by Christian principles, right? Mm-hmm. And so this idea from Mother Teresa that if you want to change the world, don't go and try to change the world, by going out and doing your thing, right? It's go home, love your family, change yourself, and that changes your family, which ripples out to your community, the country, and the country, the world. So it's this idea that we change our hearts and our minds first, and then that allows our actions to have impacts that we don't understand or see, right? So, and that was really the main process or thought process behind why to get into business. I think if people just get into business to make money, I think one, I think it's a little short-sighted. You have to make profit in order to be successful, right? And be able to do the things you want. But I think there's a lot of other ways to go make money that's probably far easier than running an organization. And
for sure.
Amen. So, but it's this idea that, I think all get frustrated, and it seems to be compounding regardless of your political bent, any kind of ideology, it doesn't matter. We just all have this innate sense that something's wrong. And I've had it for a long time that I wanted to go have an impact or a change. And instead of thinking about it at a global level, is really more of how do we do it inside of a business? Because if we can do it in our families and our business, even in an imperfect way, because we're all imperfect people, but we can have a positive impact on all of their families, and then those families on their friends and all that. So we decided that we would really put our effort, and that's where the vision statement comes from. So that's the principal piece.
Yeah,
people. I don't care how automated we get. It's still a people business. It's all about relationships, and so I think it's really, really important to have a business where you have talented people that you trust, you're having a positive impact on them, and then they're having a positive impact on the organization, the culture, and you take care of them. You do the best you can to take care of them. Again, we're all imperfect. We make mistakes, and you're really looking for those individuals that want to learn, that will work through those mistakes. We focus on facts and process as opposed to, is this person really a competency issue? That's always the last thing that you want to ask, because typically it's not. Yeah. There's a lot of people that really want to try, but we don't give them the opportunity. And then just how do we really take those people that are an A team, and that's where the process comes into place, and make sure that they're focused on a regular basis to be consistent performers.
Yeah.
Right? So we get that repeatability there. So that's where people, process, and principle come from.
Yeah, that's good. The people part's the hardest part to me across the board. And the principle part is obviously difficult, lays a foundation for how you want the people side to go.
Yeah.
Building that out. But let's talk about disclaiming that you're faith-based principles. Have you ever had any negative feedback in that loop?
I won't say
on first
negative
impressions.
So I had one customer who had a bad experience where every time this one particular supplier was pronouncing something in the media, their name got tied to that supplier because they were a prominent customer of that supplier. And so they literally asked me, so if you're Christian based, does that mean you only have Christians that are working for you? I said, I gotta be honest with you, I have no idea. Number one, we have a third party. We're a PEO, so Syndeo does a fantastic job of managing all of our team. They're really great at making sure that we're EEOC compliant. They do all the right stuff, keep us in, from a regulatory standpoint. They just are amazing. Have had them since day one. And the second thing is, it's not what I'm about, right? So it's I really want to work and have an impact on everybody as much as possible. Trinity as a whole has really embraced that culture and that mindset. So I have no idea what other people believe unless they engage me into that discussion. And then, it's always, you always have an invitation, but you never win by trying to beat anything into anybody's head, whether it be business, faith, kids, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's the evangelistic side of the opportunity you could leverage in a business. I've seen that go bad. And exactly how you've described it is the right way to do it, right? But I mean, if you're treating your business and employees like a church in a sense, and accountability and requirements. That's a slippery slope of probably
Absolutely.
HR nightmare. But I love that. That's great. And I was more curious about actually putting Christian principle on the cover letter of everything you start with.
Yeah.
I don't feel like, I don't know very many people who disagree with those principles, right? There's certain, if you get into the fine print, but the overarching bigger picture of it, I could see you not really getting pushed back. Like, oh, okay, yeah, they're just trying to be ethical and treat people right and be honest. And
I think there's a lot that serves us well in that. I also believe the idea of, and I don't know if it's originally like a Dave Ramsey thing or not, but the more is caught than taught kind of perspective, right? So if we do the right things during difficult times, I'll give you two examples. One is, like we mentioned during COVID, we had one minor layoff. Most of the reduction we had in workforce, because we lost over 50% of our revenue overnight. I mean, the commercial market tanked. It was a rough time, no doubt, and had a lot of great people. But we really wanted to try to protect the employee base because we knew it wasn't going to be forever.
Right,
we're going to need them. Now we're much larger than we ever were before. We've hit records for the company the last 2 years, so we're really excited about that. And most of the people that were there through COVID are still with us. In fact, our turnover rate is less than 10% in an industry that's closer to 30%, right, on a 12-month basis. So we've got a tremendous amount of loyalty because the people work well together, they like being there, and we try really hard to take care of them. We even gave bonuses and raises during that time. The other thing that we've done is we've really worked to minimize the healthcare costs to our team. So, for example, since day one, we have absorbed 100% of the increases that we have on our healthcare policy. We haven't changed. In fact, we actually have a richer policy than we started off with. So every penny of increase that we've had since 2014, we as a company have absorbed, and the employees haven't seen any of it in their premiums.
Wow.
So they literally are paying for 2014 premiums. But I mean, again, it's taking care of those people first and having that heart to be able to really, as a company and organization, and I got to be clear, that's not me. That's the organization, the company. That's everybody, working together, doing the right things, and that's where the profitability comes in. You got to make sure that you're profitable so you can go do those things and have a business that's successful. But it really is important that the culture is built around that, right? So having that principle and that clarity of purpose becomes really, really important, mostly in the difficult times, but they also make those difficult times easier because it's not like, oh, what do I do here? Well, if I want to be who I am, this is the path I go, and I trust in the good Lord to take care of everything. So,
having a mission statement and something to fall back to in the hard times is so smart, and honestly, something I've been really bad at. Just like developing that. It's like, oh, we're gonna be that way, or that we already ooze this, right? You can kind of assume that you already create a culture, and people do create cultures, from their leadership perspective. But it is so important to have something like that, essentially written down that, like, this is what we do, this is who we are, and so when you're making any big decision, to be able to go back to that. Those core mission statements that you guys are behind. Do you have people, principles, process, and then do you have a larger mission statement?
So the overall, just the vision statement is really where we focus, right? And we really enjoy building machine parts and assemblies. Yeah. So we just happen to be able to make widgets and be really good at it.
Yeah.
We got a talented team to be able to go manage it, and now we're working on continuing that diversification process. So we try to make sure that we don't have any one platform, market, or customer that is over a certain percentage. And as we've grown with certain customers, we're very grateful for them. We are now working to go get into newer customers, newer markets. The world's changing, defense is changing quite a bit. Even I think the commercial market will start to have some kind of changes around that as well. But it's just been fun also having some new product coming through the door at Trinity. Yeah. So,
how did you get good at robotics? Did you bring in a specialized person? If you're consulting on robotics, it's pretty deep understanding.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot to it. So I would say there's two things that we did. One of the key guys, Chris Vanover, had a friend of his by the name of Joel Corapali, who is a master's.
What a name.
Was a master's student. He's with us now. But at WSU, we wanted to get into automation. We bought a robotics cell that was already, basically integrated into the machine. So we bought a cookie cutter approach. Decided very quickly that we didn't like that because every time we had a problem, we were calling somebody up in Boston or some other place, and it was very difficult to get it to do what we wanted it to do. And plus, it was all about one widget at a time, high volume. So we really had to find just that thing to put across it. But it taught us robotics and gave us the impetus to then say, okay, let's go build something that we want. Okay, it's COVID, got some downtime. We went and bought a cheaper machine. And put a robot in front of it. And we went through iteration after iteration after iteration. And the only skill that I had to have was the patience to be able to say, okay, we made a mistake. What are we learning from it? And then the team would pick that up. And it was honestly, it's really easy to look back now and say, oh, I'm so glad we did that. When we were going through it, and here you have a machine and a robot, and you're paying people, and it's like, it's really hard to have that patience, but it's just, you just have faith that, they're making progress, and what they developed is literally amazing. Everybody that comes in and sees it are like, wow, you guys have something special here, right? And so that's also part of what helped us drive and say, if we have a team that can do that with our process inside of aerospace, man, what can we do elsewhere? Right. And that's the exciting piece. Is, in fact, we've got one project that we completed where it's fixtureless welding on 8 different assemblies. So they do a changeover. There's 4 assemblies that are fairly the same, and then another 4 set, but they're all without any kind of fixturing. They're all held and assembled by its 3 different robots. One's a welding robot, one's a fairly large industrial robot, and another one's a UR collaborative. And they're
What's a UR collaborative?
So collaborative robot is, so traditionally you'll see like the fencing or the laser lights around, laser fencing around a robot. It's because a robot traditionally is not going, it's just going to go through whatever it hits. Collaborative robots, UR is the brand. A collaborative robot has the ability to be able to sense when it collides. So it doesn't move as fast. It gives up a little bit on the strength side, but you don't have any of the fencing. So like all of our robots at Trinity are all collaborative. So we are, right next to them. We're working with them when we need to, and we don't have to worry about safety in any way, shape, or form.
Makes sense.
It's being able to watch the team do that is just tremendous. It's a lot of fun.
So, and then the heavy, sorry, I'm getting into the weeds here, but I want to understand it. So you have the welding robot and then the heavy industrial robots, like holding the part?
Yeah, so there are points that it does.
Okay.
There is a base and it's got a rotary on it, but they're setting everything on top of this base. And then the heavy industrial robot is lifting the bigger pieces, right? The heavier pieces. Placing them, and it will do holding where it tack welds. And then the collaborative robot will place some of the smaller pieces into that assembly. And I don't remember how many details. I want to say there's somewhere around 8 or 10 pieces that go into that assembly. And then it does a full weld. It's just an amazing project. Cool. So it was really,
and that's one part. So you have 3 robots, and then all the pieces are there. Then the part's done. What's the next step? Curious.
Well, then for that particular cell, it accomplishes what it's supposed to do. All the assembly and welding was done by hand before,
right?
And then they take and they will. I think that they do some painting, some processing.
So like a human then removes the part.
It goes into an outfeed, like a big roller piece. So
Rolls
then
off.
it's staged for somebody to pick it up and go from there. Yep.
And then those parts are essentially stacked, and then it starts the next one.
Pretty much, yeah.
They load the parts each time.
No. They have a in-feed cart that has all of the components that go to it, and the robots literally pick it up off the cart.
Wow.
Puts and assembles them together, tacks welds it up, and goes on from there. And it really is amazing.
And what's interesting about that is that it could be so diverse that if it's just grabbing it off a cart, I mean, theoretically, you could say that system is going to weld 10 completely different things today.
Yeah.
If they can program them in where you've not set up a system that only makes that part. like traditional automation, right? You build an automation that can only make the one thing. Robotics, I'm assuming it diversifies that.
It definitely helps. Now, so we have a bit of a different approach than probably most what they call integrators, which is what Akeratos is. It's an integrator taking automation hardware, doing the engineering design, and then plugging that into the manufacturing process, right? So we take a little bit of a backwards approach. Instead of saying, oh yeah, hey, I've got this robot, I want to sell you the robot, and so therefore this is what we need you to do in your manufacturing process.
Got it.
We come in and say, what do you want to accomplish with your manufacturing process? And then we work on doing the customized kind of a boutique engineering effort to come in and say, this is what we would recommend. You might have some upstream problems that we need to address, but here's how we can go and significantly improve and provide you a fantastic ROI for your investment, and also give you the repeatability of the process, the consistency of your runtime. You know, you don't have to worry about whether people are going to be coming in, your hiring issues, because a lot of people are doing automation because they're having a hard time finding skilled labor, a team.
Sure.
And so automation, again, it's not about replacing the person to produce the product. It's about leveraging the person's ability. So instead of, I mean, for us, we're running somewhere between, 3+ machines of robots with one person, and able to leverage all of their talent in order to be able to produce more, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, that makes sense. So the traditional model, you work backwards from it. So if I were to build a robot, I identify a market need, right?
Yeah.
So a demand signal is everybody's making this part all over the country. There's 100 businesses, 100 Trinity Precisions making this single part. So I'm going to build a robot that automates that, because I know they're all using humans still to make that. That would be a off-the-shelf product that you could develop and then go sell a robot. You guys are coming at it from a different, because that's where my head would go traditionally in business. I'd be like, oh, we should just identify what's the one thing they make the most of, and then build a off-the-shelf, out-of-the-box, like, here you go.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm assuming, like you said, if there's only 35 parts a year, or 40 for, like, and that's specific to aerospace.
Right.
But do you see opportunities where something off the shelf makes more sense?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
If it's something that's fairly simple. Even with that though, there is a lot of, it's not as simple as like taking a Mindstorm, plugging it into a particular, process, and then it's just going to automatically work, right?
Sure.
So part of the magic also has to be, how do we define and work through that manufacturing process to make sure that we're accomplishing what we want in a consistent way? So, for example, machine tending. There are so many things that happen on the machine side that are not just related to the robot and the in-feed system, the placing of the part. There could be chips, there could be broken cutters, there could be wrong geometry. Sometimes the material that comes in is slightly off, so we're doing some probing. There's just a lot that goes into any kind of process, right? And I think that's where I get most of my excitement, is there's always something new. I mean, so for example, again, going back to the tour you gave, which was fantastic, thank you.
You have a lot of ideas, don't you?
Well, I mean, it would be, we'd love to talk to you about it, but
For clarification, I give all of my guests a tour of the book operation. We scan and list thousands of books online in this building, and we happen to have a podcast studio in the corner.
It's very cool.
Continue.
But you think about, you're selling books.
Yeah.
Man, there is so much that is behind that, right?
Right.
And I think any business, anything that anybody's doing, any kind of venture, you always see kind of the surface. And then it's like you pull back the veneer or veil or whatever you want to call it, and there is a lot of depth there, even in the smallest of businesses, where people are juggling so many different aspects that people from the outside, they don't have any idea at all.
Well, yeah, it's like a conveyor, right? So in the book processing, our biggest inefficiency is a person grabbing a book out of a big box, scanning it, seeing what that says, then sorting it, right?
Yeah.
So they have conveyors for that system, robotic conveyors with arms that swing out. It scans. The negative is our space and how it's designed, and the only things that are out there and how they're made with our space is a problem.
Right.
Kind of back to your point, like there. And then the second part of that is there's these two other parts to a book. None of them can scan. And that's where we make most of our profit. So ISBNs and title searches, when it doesn't have a barcode, that turns into a whole lookup. We've messed with some AI for some different parts of that. And I think that'll automate eventually, but it's not tied into any of the systems yet. So what we have in our head of automation, which would be a blast to talk to you about, is like it doesn't exist, right? Like, and it's kind of duct tape. Probably needs to be a blend of a couple different systems to fully automate it going forward. But that's to your point of the depth and unveiling the curtain. Like there's all these other things that someone would come in and say, "Oh, just get a conveyor in this." We're like, "Yeah, but
this is what goes.
Here's
into
all the other things that we're dealing with." But yeah, that's great. That's fascinating. So what does, I'm curious about costs. Throw out some ballpark numbers. They don't have to be spot on. Specifically, like those 3 robots for that one part you just talked about. What is the capital, how much capital to buy those 3 robots?
Yes, it depends on the complexity that goes into it and the hardware that's available, right? So your robots can cost... well, let's put it like this. Your projects are going to range somewhere between probably $150,000 to you can get up to $750,000, right? Okay. We've done some larger quotes for more complex processes, and it just really kind of depends on what's out there and what they're asking us to do. So part of this is having some detective work up front, where you're saying, here's the statement of work that we're developing and what you're asking us to do, so we have clarity on what you want from us, so we have a clear deliverable for our customer, right?
Yep.
Which would be, part of that is for all the hardware, part of it is also performance of that hardware and all of the engineering that goes into it.
Right.
So kind of like a consulting type arrangement as well. Right?
Like the heavy, I was thinking of even just like the heavy, just the hardware piece itself, that specific industrial heavy robot, because I've seen those on lots of, just these different robot arms that are wild, what they can pick up and relocate. I was just curious, like I don't even know where you would get that. And I'm sure sometimes they're custom. It's like, oh, you need this weight. Oh, that'll be in the production line soon. Are those just inventoried? They're just sitting on a shelf somewhere?
There some of them are, but most are not. Most are, they've got a pipeline that's coming in. They'll sell serial numbers, and so you might not get it right away. But a lot of them you can either buy. So we deal directly with some of the robot manufacturers themselves. Yeah. We also have some great partners that are distributors, and all they do is sell the hardware, but they don't necessarily do the engineering, or they don't do the integration installation. So we've got some great relationships there. But really a lot of it is building the relationship primarily with the customer base first. And then we've got the relationship with the hardware providers and OEMs.
By the way, I finally get what you do, so that was helpful. Yeah. We got there. That's always my main goal. Like when I finally see the whole picture of Akeratos.
Good.
Awesome. But that's awesome. That's like really cool. That would be fun.
It is. I mean,
especially with the right team going in and just, it probably blows people's minds too when it gets there. Like when it gets close to finish. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people are standing around like, oh.
I have to be honest. Yeah. I am guilty of, and I know I can think of a couple people specifically that every time they see me come around like the robots, they're like, oh gosh, here he comes again. But I can just stand there and watch the robots just operate. And maybe it's because I love the
David.
Yeah, wake up. Got my cup of coffee and I can stand there for a little while. So but it really is, and part of it is just kind of that sense of wonder and awe in terms of, wow, look at what a bunch of smart people, because if you really break it down, I wonder about the same thing with like CNC manufacturing. Okay, so let's just take and say our in-feed, out-feed system. I know there are a lot of people that had input at Trinity with Akeratos to go develop that system. Then you think about all the people that have the patents, designs for all the things that go into the robot. Yeah. And then the gripper, and then the CNC machine. I mean, there are so many people that work together. And this is where, when we start talking about like people coming out of, and not being important in business because we're automating everything. I think that so misses the boat. I really do. But we build on the innovation of people that were before us and the people that are around us. Yeah. And it's just such a beautiful thing. I think it's really neat.
Yeah, the layers of innovation to your finished project is cool. I mean, the final end, because if the CNC, if the parts are coming in and that CNC is not consistent enough, I would have never thought about that.
Yeah.
Like CNC's cutting all the metal pieces, potentially, depending on what they're making. Then they come over, and if that thing's off, then how's this going to adjust? How's your 3 robots that weld it all together?
That's exactly
how do they adjust like that? Yeah, I would never. Yeah, that's why there's experts.
You can produce a lot of scrap very quickly if you don't have a good process.
Oh yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, that's wild. Who's your core customer right now since 20 for Akeratos? Specifically industry. I'm curious what industry you've helped the most since 21.
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know if I could give you a straight answer because we've gone from food industry to bulk conveyor systems to actually they're like pressure valves that break at a certain pressure. They've got a patent, just an amazing business. We've helped them. We've helped some wire manufacturers. We helped a plastic manufacturer that is doing like window sills, door frames, things like that. So we helped them with an automation project. Obviously, Trinity is a part of that as well. We've done some other machine tending and I don't even remember what industries they were in, but making different types of machine components that are not, there were some type of commercial application. So it's really pretty diverse. And again, I love that. I'm kind of a shiny object kind of guy. I'm great at getting something started. I'm really bad about getting something finished. So I got to partner with people that are great.
I can't relate at all. That must be tough.
Yeah.
That'd be tough to be you, David.
It's especially on the home front when I don't get it done.
Right.
And my wife is a saint. She's very patient with me. Yeah. So
on that note, balancing business, and now you've started this. Where do you spend your most of your time? Trinity or Akeratos?
So I'm really blessed with a very strong team at Trinity. Last year, we put a gentleman by the name of Chris Vanover, who's one of the founding 4 with me, Dave Tyson, Steve Ford. And he is the GM now over Trinity, which has allowed me to do 2 things. One, shift my focus and spend about half my time at Akeratos along with Trinity. And then also be able to really, when I'm spending time at Trinity, I'm trying very hard not to get into the weeds and really focused on strategy, guidelines. Here's kind of the guide rails that we want to operate within and just give some overall direction. And I think that's been really hard. I'm going to be honest. And I kind of talked to him a little bit about it, but it's really hard is when you're used to being in the thick of things, right? And this is where I just thank God that I've got a lot of great people that I trust. But to be able to step back and say, okay, I just need to be able to say, okay, this is where we need to go. You guys are completely great at doing this, and 9 times out of 10, you were doing it anyway. I just need to get out of that 10th time and really let people go handle it. Where most of my time at Trinity has been both strategy and really focusing on fleshing out and building out that metric infrastructure that helps give us that guiding direction from an analytics standpoint. So we really start converting everything over to Microsoft Power BI. We've got a great business systems analytics manager who handles all the business system stuff. And he's done some amazing things. But we're converting it all to Power BI, and that has been amazing. So
is it? I'm not familiar with that. Is it just like a CRM or project management tool, or?
So Power BI is just data analytics.
Oh,
so
okay.
we've plugged it into our CRM, our ERP really is what it is, which is all of the where all the data resides, how we move jobs, how we manage. But it's how we can quickly slice and dice information, and it's always present. It's live data. So, whereas we'd have to go back and rerun reports, we might have to dump them into Excel or Access. I want to look at it like this. We can play with the data live.
Cool.
And really building that infrastructure that gives us very fast data and puts it at our fingertips. So now we're focused and continue to focus more on problem solving or identification by using those tools. So we don't have it completely throughout each one of our departments. We've been kind of taking it a chunk at a time, but what we've been able to build out so far is just, it really has been game changing for us.
How many people work at Trinity Precision?
So 107 now.
Wow.
Yeah, we started off at 32.
Jeez.
So been an amazing journey. God's been good. That's all I
Yeah.
can say. God's been good.
Talk about that. Akeratos, I don't know if there's any traveling involved, or you going to do most of it remote. It sounds like these things are all over the place.
They are. So we try to keep it within about a 5 to 6 hour radius from drive time. I don't do a lot of the traveling anymore. I've done my fair share. I really like being at home, to be honest with you. I'm kind of a home bunny. But the team has been fantastic. We do try to make sure that we are not keeping people on the road all the time. That is, I am very sensitive to that because I remember when it was one of the drivers for me also in a big company was when I was at my first job, I was on the road at least 2 weeks out of every month. And we had, 2 daughters. I had a third child on the way before I left, and which is my oldest son. And it just wasn't great for any of us. And so that was a big driver for me. I still had to do some traveling, but I was a little bit more in control of when and what. Not all the time, but most of the time. And then now I've got the privilege not to do any of that. So that's been a blessing.
How many kids do you have now?
7.
7.
Yep.
I think I knew you had 7. I was just making sure there wasn't another one.
No, Nope.
That's awesome. Live out on some land, right?
Yeah, we sure
out
do.
in the country, and 7 kids. That's
Yep.
I've always been impressed how detailed and focused in some of our talks about your family. You're obsessed with your family. How have you been able to take a company from 30 employees to 100 employees and build this and still feel like you've got balance on your core foundation of your family?
I have to be honest. I don't always feel like I do to be, and I think I try to be sensitive. This is an area where sometimes I do really great, and then other times I'm not so great. And I would, just say that I'm blessed to have just a saint of a wife. I think I mentioned that before, but she really is amazing. So she's been very supportive all along. We've had some goals as to, what we'd like to be able to do. But the other thing is you really have to build out a great team, and I think that you have to do that if you want to get past, and I don't remember if it's Good to Great that has it in there, but talking about no man's land, right? So kind of between the size of business where an individual can touch every process, control every process, and really they're not doing it, but they have their eyes on everything, right? You start outgrowing that ability, and either you're going to becoming the limiting factor where now the business can't grow past your inability to be able to go manage it, or you're really focused on the people and the processes, right? And you have the data to tell you we're doing well or we're not, and you're stepping out of the way. You're saying this is the vision, this is the direction, this is what we as a team decide that we want to go do, and you're staying out of the way. And so that's really, I think that is true also when you are trying to balance between the family time and the work time. You really got to be able to flesh that out, because if all you're doing is you're the only one that's making all the decisions, doing everything, it's going to consume you.
Yeah.
Right. And especially the bigger it gets, the harder it is to put any time towards family whatsoever. So that'd be my piece of advice.
Yeah. No, that's really good. Great answer on the wife side. I would agree. I've been in situations where couples were not on the same page, marriages were not on the same page as far as time. And probably, right, it's pretty easy to not understand how much time is going to be till you're in it, right? Until you're finally in it and you're doing it, you just have no idea. And no matter what anyone tells you, you're like, no, it's going to be, it's just hard to understand that, you're going you're going to have 90-hour weeks sometimes when things go bad, and you're always on call, especially at the beginning.
Yes.
Building it out. And I can say the same thing. I've been very spoiled that my wife, who is smarter and more professional than me, stayed home for 10 years before going to work for me to do what I've done and enjoy doing. On the side of finding balance or not, I also like how you say I haven't, and then sometimes I have, you know, and I do think that tug, that pull, it's so much more about communication and clarification that this will be a moment in time where I have to press in.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of times it's just, there is no communication. Some of my friends that own businesses, you know, to the spouse, like, hey, this is my plan. I got to do a lot right now, but this is how I'm not going to do a lot in this time frame. Right. And that's hard to do. But if you can communicate that up front, as an entrepreneur, business owner to your spouse, I think that helps a lot.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. It's really important to cut both of yourselves some slack in terms of people want to go in with a very specific plan, and you know, a plan is just how I think it's just a starting point. And then whether it be in manufacturing, sports, or whatever, you know, that plan gets blown up in the first few moments of execution. And then you're like, okay, this is the general direction we're headed. So now we've got to adjust and work and kind of go through that. So that constant, as you put it, push and pull, that tug, I think is healthy. And just to realize, you know what, I'm not always going to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things wrong. What's important is, am I learning from them? Unfortunately, I'm a slow learner. And so sometimes it takes like a lot of beating on me by my team and others to, you know, to be able to get me in the right direction. So, but blessed with a lot of just great people in my life. So.
Yeah. No, that's really good. What was the hardest part about your business? Worst season? What was the cause? What was the most difficult part? You came out of it and your takeaway was?
So I gotta think about that.
I know.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
the most horrible thing that you've ever.
It doesn't have to be the most horrible. Just the first one that pops in your head. I should rephrase that question because it is. Everyone has a really hard time with that question.
So I think in general, as I've gotten older, you see a lot of the same cycles over and over again. And sometimes they're with customers, sometimes they're with people, but especially with like I want to say the newer people that kind of come into the business, either in the customer supply base, whatever, but they've got the same stuff that you've heard before. And it's like, oh, we've got this XYZ, you know, and you've got to go do this. And if you do this, then you're going to just get all sorts of business and blah, blah, blah. And you just know that that's not how it works. Right. Or there's the idealistic individual that comes in and you got to be careful because there's a lot of good ideas you can quickly dismiss. But it's like sometimes they come in with a lot of enthusiasm. It's like, well, why are all these things broken? It's like, you need to live in business for a little bit and understand the world's not perfect, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the older I get, the more I have to really pour patience into those situations. Because it's like, okay, well, here we go again, especially on the customer side.
Yeah.
And I hate to put it that way, but
sure.
So it's really just about understanding that the world and other people don't necessarily have your experience and your knowledge base. And, you know, so try to do some education as much as possible, but also trust your gut, you know, and stand your ground when people come in and are when you know what's right, give them some latitude to try to learn. But at the same time, you don't have to go with every prevailing wind that the customer or the people have. And so the thing that I love most about business, which is the people, I think is also the thing that I struggle the most with business is the people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is I have to look over my life and say, all the people that were patient with me, especially God, who's been so patient with me over, the last 51 years, right, since I was born, how can I not do that for other individuals? and I really sometimes struggle with it. And I have to just step back, take some accounting of my own actions, and then try to re-engage in a nicer way.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's really good. Yep.
I don't know
That's
if helpful or
powerful.
not.
You got anything on your side, Norris? Because I saw you over there rocking hard when we were talking about robotics. So yeah. I know, right? I tried my best to ask questions you would want to hear. My favorite part about this podcast is Tyler breaking the fourth wall, and you just kind of barely hear him on the podcast. Who yells something?
That's awesome.
We're never going to give him a mic. He's got to stay off. But. No, that's great. I so appreciate your time. I feel like I could go on forever about just that dynamic of B2B. That might be a whole nother podcast that would be fun to do down the road with you, is just talking about the last 5 years of building a B2B consulting development for various industries. And
absolutely.
we should just go have lunch and talk about it regardless.
That sounds great.
But a lot of gold nuggets. Thank you so much. And really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thank you for the
Thanks, man.
invite.
Yep.
Thank you.